Hi there, it's Reverend Mark here, and it is lovely to be with you and to share a short thought for the day. We are in the Easter season, so I've got a little Easter tale for you. See, once upon a time, there were three little trees stood in a forest high on a mountain. They were dreaming of what they would become when they were fully grown. The first little tree, he looked up at the stars twinkling like diamonds in the sky. I want to hold treasure, it said. I want to be filled with gold. I want to be decorated with jewels. I will be the most beautiful treasure chest in the world. The second little tree, it looked down at the ocean far below. I want to be a strong sailing ship, it said. I want to travel mighty waters and carry powerful kings. I will be the strongest ship in the world. Well, the third little tree said, I don't want to leave this mountain top at all. I want to grow so tall that when people stop and see me, their eyes will turn towards heaven and they will think about God. I want to be the tallest tree in the world. Well, the years passed, the trees grew, when one day three woodcutters climbed the mountain. One woodcutter looked at the first tree and he said, this tree is beautiful, it is perfect for me. And with a dozen swoops of an axe, the tree fell. Now I shall be made into a beautiful treasure chest, the first tree thought. I shall hold marvellous treasures. Well, another woodcutter looked at the second tree. This tree is strong, it is perfect for me. And with a dozen swoops of the axe, the second tree fell. Now I shall sail mighty waters, thought the second tree. I shall be made into a strong ship for powerful kings. Well, the third tree felt its heart sink as the third woodcutter approached. It stood straight and tall and pointed bravely towards heaven. But the last woodcutter never even looked up. Any kind of tree will do for me, he said, and with a dozen swoops of his axe, the third tree fell. Well, the first tree rejoiced when the woodcutter took it to a carpenter's shop, but the carpenter was not thinking about treasure chests. Instead, he cut and carved the wood into a simple feed box. The once beautiful tree was not filled with gold or decorated with jewels. It was covered with dust and filled with hay for hungry farm animals. Well, the second tree rejoiced when the woodcutter took it to a shipyard, but the shipbuilder was not thinking about mighty sailing ships. Instead, he hammered and sawed the tree into a simple fishing boat. The once strong tree was too weak to sail the ocean, and so it was taken to a little lake where every day it was filled with lots of dead, smelly fish. The third tree was confused when the woodcutter took it to a lumberyard. It was cut into strong beams and then it was just left alone. What happened? The once tall tree wondered. All I ever wanted to do was stay on the mountaintop, grow tall and make people think about God. Well, the years passed and the trees nearly forgot their dreams. But then one still and silent night, golden starlight poured over the first tree as a young woman placed a newborn baby into the feed box. I wish I could make a cradle for him, her husband whispered. The mother squeezed his hand and smiled as the starlight shone on the clean and shining wood. "This manger is beautiful," she said. And suddenly the first tree knew that it was holding the greatest treasure in the world. And then one humid, cloudy day, a tired traveller and his friends crowded into the small fishing boat. The traveller fell asleep as the second tree sailed quietly out onto the lake. But a thundering storm arose, and the second tree shuddered, knowing that it did not have the strength to carry so many passengers safely through the fierce wind and rain. The tired traveller awoke, stood up, stretched out his hand, and said with a strong voice, "Peace, be still." The storm stopped as quickly as it had begun, and suddenly the second tree knew that it was carrying the King of heaven and earth. Well then one terrible Friday morning, the third tree was startled as its beams were yanked from an old lumberyard. It flinched as it was carried through an angry, jeering and spitting crowd. It shuddered when soldiers nailed a man's hands and feet to her. It groaned as the man cried out in agony and died. It felt ugly and harsh and cruel. But at dawn the next Sunday, on the first Easter morning, the earth trembled with joy beneath the third tree. And it knew that God's love had changed everything. It had made the first little tree a beautiful treasure chest. It had made the second little tree a strong sailing ship. And every time people looked at the third little tree, they would think about God. And that was better than being the tallest tree in the world.